Alright, hi guys, how you doing? I hope you had some casting under your belt by now. So you're ready for the next things in your casting career. And before we really continue, I want to point out that everything from here is kind of optional. You don't have to introduce any of these things into your cast, and you can be an amazing caster, and that's totally cool. This is just all of this is like extra production value, icing on the cake. Remember that the most important part in your cast is you, your voice, your narrative. That's really the most important thing. So do not be intimidated if you see other people with a lot of stuff on their cast. At the end of the day, it's still about you and you having fun above most of it. So now let's have a look at all these things, and maybe you want to add some of them. And if you do so, I recommend you to do so incrementally. Don't throw everything at your cast at one time. Add one thing, see how it works out for you, see if you're comfortable with it, and then add more things as you see fit. Once you are comfortable with the other things you have added before. So like as a rule of thumb for myself, I usually add or have added one thing, and then I cast it with that one thing extra for about 2 or 3 casts before I moved on and decided that I either ditch that thing or add more stuff to it. So there's always room to improve in your casting, of course, and always other things you can do. But let's get an overview about the things I'm going to talk about here in episode 19 to 31. So it's actually quite a lot of stuff. I'm going to give a really quick overview here. So first thing you notice already here is we have this dual casting setup. So that would be a pre-game scene where you and your co-caster, you have both your cameras here, and you can introduce yourself to the viewers and have a little chit chat. I set it up in a way that I can get quickly rid of that thing, and I am back in a single cast scenario. You can do it like this, as we will explain in the episode, or you can set it up as a separate scene collection. Both of them are totally viable. We will also have in episode 20, we're going to talk about this standing screen here, where you can have something to talk about before a game starts. In episode 21, we're going to talk about pre-live and post-live scenes. So a pre-live scene could be something like this. There's a ticker running here at the bottom showing some results. So this would be running on your stream before you go live with your voice. It could be a video running here for your viewers to have something to look at, or it could be like a slideshow which just slowly changes. And something similar, you want to like close your stream at some point, and it's gonna be loud for a little bit here because we will have a little intro video to this post-live scene. I'm just gonna let this run. So there you have that, and then it would like end your stream, and you would go into the live part of your stream. We would go to this post live. You can show this for a little while you are deciding who you want to raid, or if you want to raid. It's just a nice little closure to your stream. By the way, like there's still background music running here on the scene, so it's not as silent as it actually appears. In episode 22, we're gonna talk about a post-game scene. So that is when the last map has been played, the winner of the match is determined. You would have something like this over here, where instead of a co-caster, you would have here your interview partner, and it could be that something like this is showing for the person you're interviewing, or just the team logo showing up here. Or it could be that you have like some post-game chat with your co-caster before you sign off. All of that is possible. We're gonna talk about adding player pop-ups at game start. So if you go into the game and you see another thing we're gonna talk about here, this is this little stinger video for the transition. But if you go into the game and we are actually in there, we have these player pop-ups, which can come up, and this looks pretty cool if you're just like loading the game, right? You're talking about who is on which team and what they are playing. That's a nice thing you can show while you introduce the teams. In episode 24, we're gonna talk about this little ticker which is running here in the pre-live scene, for example, and how to get the information for that, how to make that display, and how Soothsayer interacts with it. We already seen the stinger video, and there's also like this intro video here, which can play before you start your stream, before you go live. So that would be the transition from pre-live to going live, but still before the actual game. After that, in episode 26, we're gonna talk about Stats of the Storm. I give you like a short introduction, what it is, what it can do. And then in episode 27, we're gonna talk about how to use Stats of the Storm in your streaming setup. So you can do something cool like this. If you go into the draft, and I open my Soothsayer here, and you have like one person like picking their hero up, you could either show stats of that hero, or you could like show stats of that person for a short while during your draft. So it would pop up in the bottom here like this, and then after a short loading time, which is pretty long the first time you do it, but after the second one, it's gonna be showing up much quicker. And I hope this works this time. We're gonna show this later in episode 27. So there's a trick. I messed it up a little bit here. We're gonna talk about themes and themes override. So if I go back here, for example, into the map draft, this is a nice example where you can see these things. If you go into Soothsayer, you can change the theme so that everything looks a little bit different. So if I go away from the Castle Law theme, we can go into our Heroes Launch theme, for example, and then it looks something like this. Or I can go into the Nexus Gaming series theme, and it will look something like this. And all of this is being controlled by Soothsayer. It's just changing the map draft overlay. And there are theme overrides, so you can keep your other scenes as they looked before. But if you do the full theme shenanigans, then you will have different scenes everywhere, and some of them needs adjustments for your other sources, and that's totally fine. We're gonna talk about how to do that. Then we're gonna talk a little bit more about themes, how they work. In episode 29, we go a little bit into the nuts and bolts of what themes actually are constructed from. And in episode 30, we're gonna use that knowledge to modify our themes, so we can do, for example, stuff like this. Let me go to my modified theme. So we are now back on Cast Aloft. You don't see anything yet, but if I do these player pop-ups, for example, again, you see that I gave them all little Christmas hats. So if it's close to Christmas, I could, for example, use this theme I modded, and I'm gonna show you how I did that, so you can personalize these themes to your streaming setup. And last but not least, we're gonna talk about the Spezzo Observer, which is a different kind of observer, like AliOps, which we installed before. Spezzo Observer is configurable and has quite a cool features, but it also means that we need to adjust our overlay a little bit, because we talked about that in episode 29 and 30. You should have the knowledge on how to do that. So with all of that being said, I hope you're getting excited here. If that was a little bit information overload, make sure to check the document in the description of this video. There is a table of contents which has an overview about what is happening in which episode. So I hope you join me on this journey, and see you in episode 19 when we talk about the duocast scene setup.